passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dreams. As I look upon my life, there's a passion inside. Heaven knows I'm living my dreams.
Good morning, everybody. Yay. We are back. You are on the Inside Show with Talk with Joan Thursdays. And yes, I am so happy to be back on the show. And today we have an excellent topic for you. And I know you're looking forward for this topic, right? So yay, if you didn't subscribe as yet, come on now. Come on. It is time to do it right now. Just hit that bell, man, so that you can get some notifications on what is happening on the Inside Show. So this morning, I have a guest. Right, and listen, guys, this is for real. I know I always fool and say from the United States of Eldos, but this is now really from the United States of the United States, right from Atlanta, Georgia. So yes, we're gonna have an awesome time this morning. So yes, without wasting any time, get out your mirror. You know the thing for now. Come on now, girls. Get out that mirror. It is right in your purse. So just get it out. If you're at home, you have a big mirror. Stand in front of that mirror because we're going to do the mirror thing, right? So come on now. I'm going to first ask my guest, actually, if you are made queen. So that is for everybody. Get that mirror. Look into that mirror. You know who's looking back at you. Right? So that is the queen. And if you are made queen for the day, what will you change? Right? So I'm going to ask Stephanie, if you are made queen for the day, what will you change?
If I was made queen for the day, I would remove molestation and abandonment from the world.
Right. Awesome. That's wonderful. So yeah, you can put it, listen. We're going to talk together, right? So on YouTube, come on, send me some notifications. Tell me, what will you do when you are made queen for the day? What will you change, right? There's a lot of things in South Africa that I want to change. Yay, man. I would change everything, really and truly speaking. First and foremost, I will change the racism and I will go for the education in our children and let them go back to school. And you know what? Let them be educated because I know that is the successes for our children in the future, right? And yes, as I said, there's a lot of things I want to change. But yeah, I'm going to start off with my guest so you can know who you are talking to. So Stephanie, if you can please just introduce yourself on the show.
Okay, so I am Stephanie Jeffries. I am from Atlanta. Well, I'm from Florida, but I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I am a retired Army officer. I was actually in the Marine Corps. So at this phase of life, I'm just a grateful wanderer. I fall in love with places, but I fall in love with people. Even more than that. And yeah, so I'm just living this life of gratefulness and forgiveness. And it's just been amazing. It has been absolutely amazing.
Wonderful, and welcome to South Africa.
Thank you.
I know this is maybe it's going to become your home one day. We never know, you know. They say you go after love, right? So yeah, we never know. It can be your home, away from home.
Away from home, yes. Because I've fallen in love with the people.
Absolutely.
I've fallen in love with South Africa.
Yeah, well, South Africans are very friendly people.
Yes, they are. But yeah, I've fallen in love, and returning here has been amazing. I have women that I've met that I've fallen in love with.
Awesome.
And yeah, so I fall in love with people.
Wonderful.
So it's been, so it could definitely be a home away from home.
Yes. That's wonderful. So now you know this is Stephanie Jeffries. And you're going to talk with her, right? on YouTube. Okay, so if you didn't tune in yet, come on now. Just tune in. I'm going to ask Stephanie a few questions. She has a book out, and the book is called Finding the Courage to Heal. This is the book. And I want you really to go onto Kindle. It will be in the description. The link will be in the description, so you can go. You can actually just download it on your phone or your iPad, whatever you have. So yeah, go on, get the book. A very easy read, guys, for us who maybe don't know you that well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But I just browsed through the book. I didn't fully read the book but I'm going to do it again. I just actually prepared for the show. So, and therefore I'm going to read it again because there's so many things in here that really opened my eyes, to be quite honest. And therefore we want to go into this book. So we're going to speak about this book. And I so wish that I had the link, that I could send you the link before the show. But because it was so quick, I just could not get it. So forgive me for that, right? Yeah, forgive. Forgiveness is the key, guys. So yes, this is the book by Stephanie Jeffries.
Yes.
Finding the Courage to Heal. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And this is my passion, right? So they say I always talk about, I'm not going to make you cry today. I'm not. If Stephanie is not going to make me cry, right? I won't make you cry. So
Yeah.
come on. We're going to dig into it immediately because on the show, time flies like anything. So before I actually go into the questions, I just want to read to you a poem that I came across. The poem is by Tia Sparkles, a Sparkles Singh. I think she's a South African girl. And she wrote this poem. She say, "You are amazing." And I want you to tell your neighbor, you are amazing. You are amazing. Yes, and so it reads as follows. It says, "As you are, stronger than you know, more beautiful than you think, worthier than you believe, more loved than you can ever imagine, passionate about making a difference, fury when protecting those you love, learning, growing, not alone, warm, giving, generous, and you know what? Quirky, sexy, funny, smart. Yeah, you are flawed. You are whole. You are scared at times. You are brave. And so much more. So today I want to encourage you. Be strong and courageous. And just be the best you could ever be. And I want to say to you, that's who you are. You are amazing. You are awesome. You are a beautiful creation, made in the image of God. So never, ever down yourself, okay? Right, so we're going to dig into the book, and I'm excited to have Stephanie here because I love this topic so much, and I know some of you has actually messaged me and say you can't wait. So yes, I hope you are tuned in, and please talk to us via YouTube. So Stephanie.
Yes.
When did you first realize you want to write this book? Because this is actually your story.
Yes. I had gone through, I was finding myself in the same place in life over and over. And the book has been in my heart for a while. I was in the midst of a divorce when I first thought of writing the book, because I wanted to know why was every situation or all my relationships felt like they were ending the same way,
Right.
or why was I repeating these certain things in my life, and I had entered into another relationship, and I just couldn't understand why the giving that I was doing wasn't enough, and the person, like me just showing up as I was, being vulnerable, it just didn't seem to be enough. And so then I realized that I needed to get back into therapy because it wasn't about anybody else. I had to figure out what made me, what made these situations be the way that they are.
Yeah.
And then when I got back into therapy, and then I started writing. And so I told my therapist, I said, I'm going to write this book. And she was like, okay. And I just needed to put it on paper,
Right.
so that it would have a life of its own, and then I would be able to just release myself from it. So writing and journaling is a release for me. I just didn't know that it was going to be as difficult as it was, but that's what made me write. Like getting to a low point,
Right.
and realizing that if I'm struggling, then someone else is struggling. And so I was praying about it, and the Lord told me that He wanted me to write this book.
Okay.
And me and the Lord went round and round for a while. Okay. And I was like, nah, Jesus, we're good. Because everyone knows me as the strong person. Everyone knows me as the motivator, the person who's always grateful. And so I wasn't ready to be that vulnerable. And so the Lord said, in order for you to do what I have called you to do, you're going to have to share this story.
Right. So offset, before we came on set, you actually told me that there was a time that you put the book down.
Yes.
And you had to take it up again.
Yes. So there's a chapter in the book called Empty. And when I wrote the book was supposed to be released in June of 2020. It was supposed to be released in June. And when I started writing Empty, I could not move forward. I wrote and I cried. I wrote and I cried. And so I called my therapist. I was like, listen, I need an emergency appointment.
Yeah, right.
And so I said, listen, through this process, I'm going to need to talk to you every week. And so we agreed to talk every 4 days. And still, I didn't write. I picked it up and I cried. I picked it up and I cried because you realize, in that moment, I realized everything that I had gone through and everything that I had survived. And my battle at that moment was that I wasn't worthy to write this book. That who was going to listen to it? Why was my story important? And so my therapist says, that's why you need to keep writing, because it is important. And I was like, well, who's going to buy it? She's like, you don't worry about that. And then one day I came out of therapy and I was so emotionally drained that I just cried. And I said, Lord, listen, I'm not equipped. And He says, that is what they want you to think.
Yes.
And so if the molestation didn't kill you and the abandonment didn't kill you, you can't allow what you're writing about to kill you and to rob you of this story. And that's how I kept going.
Right, and as much as it is for you to heal you,
yes,
there are so many others
yes,
who also need the healing.
yes,
And by reading the book, they can actually also, get the courage
yes,
to be made whole, to
Yes.
heal, actually. So what was your favorite part of the book?
So my favorite part of the book, people won't believe it, is forgiveness and grateful.
Sure.
And the reason why forgiveness was the biggest part is because forgiveness takes so much.
Yeah, it does.
And so it's not, when I moved past the point where I felt like forgiving someone would let them get away with what they had done to me, I was able to release people and understand that once I released the expectation that I had on people to not hurt me or to not let me down, once I realized that I'm human and I've hurt people not intentionally, or I've did things that I wish that I could take back, that I needed the same forgiveness. So I didn't expect people to wipe the slate clean when they forgave me, but I just needed them to forgive me so that I could have peace.
Yes. Release me from your heart, yeah.
Yeah, release me from your heart. So there's a situation where I told the Lord that I needed Him to not allow me to not love someone, but to emotionally release me from them. And He did. And it was instantaneous.
Yay.
And I was able to love them in a manner that mattered, but their actions no longer had an adverse impact on me.
That's the power for forgiveness, eh?
Yes.
It's definitely, there's power in forgiveness.
Yes.
If you release people from your heart, certain things happen.
Yes. And you allow
Because it's
people.
baggages at the end of the day that you're carrying around.
It is, and forgiveness allows you to emotionally unpack, right?
Yeah.
So I was able to say, I'm holding on to this person.
Yeah.
Why? Because we've known each other so long. We've been through things
Yeah.
together. But then you think about it, the value added
Yeah.
is now being diminished by their
Yes.
actions.
Yes.
So you've added value, but then you're taking away. So then it gets to the point where you say, Lord, okay,
Yeah.
release them,
Right.
emotionally release them from me, and then emotionally release me from them, because maybe at this point it's not just them, is that you have done what you've asked me to do in their lives.
Okay.
Oh.
And what was your not so your least favorite? If I may put it
Empty.
that way.
Empty.
Empty.
Yeah, man. Listen, that chapter almost took me out.
Yeah, yo. If you read that chapter, it brings you to tears, eh? To think that, wow, Lord, how did you survive?
Because I had to relive it. I emotionally
Yeah, I can imagine.
relived it, and
Yeah.
I was just like, and so then you go into this place where in that chapter I went into this place where I didn't deserve that. I would needed protecting. I was worthy of protecting.
Yeah.
And why didn't? So then all these questions come up. And unfortunately for me, my mom and my dad are now deceased. So you don't have
Yeah.
and my grandparents are gone. So you don't have the ability to say, why didn't you protect me? So then I had no option at that point but to write letters to them and then burn them. I wrote letters of
Yeah,
forgiveness to them.
that's a beautiful thing to do.
Yes.
Because if they're no longer there, who do you forgive?
Yes.
But if you put it on paper and afterwards burn it,
Yes.
it actually,
It was,
there's power in that.
yes, there is. And so and I wrote letters to them and I forgave them, and then I was able to move forward with the chapter. But that is my least
Okay.
favorite chapter in the book.
Your least favorite.
Least.
I can imagine, because when I actually read it, it was like, yo, how did you survive? How did you actually just get through this from a young age? So and on that note, I would love you to tell us a little bit about the story so that people can get into the story, how you grew up, what was, because you took responsibility at a very young age to be there for your siblings, and
Yes.
I commend you for that, eh?
Thank you very much. So for me, the story is about overcoming. I want to get that. It is not, it is just to show you that you can overcome anything in life.
Yeah.
It is to show you that there are things that are going to happen in your life that you cannot control. And many of us are already adults. So things are happening in our lives, and that the child within us is still damaged. So there's a part of your life where you're overcompensating because you didn't get what you needed. There's a part of your life where you're holding on to relationships that you should let go because you don't want to abandon anyone because you've been abandoned. And so for me, it's writing about being abandoned, and not only being abandoned but being molested, and then being not only molested and abandoned but being abused by someone who's supposed to teach you about love.
Yes.
That's someone who's supposed to protect you with everything, and
Yes.
someone who's supposed to guide you through life. And the emotional part of it is that in all of that you don't understand why, but then you still have this unconditional love for this person that's inflicting pain in your life. And so it's just a journey. It's just my journey through all of that to come out on the other side and learn how to forgive, and then live this life of gratefulness where I choose me. This is a shirt that I created.
Right. So if you can, just before you carry on, if you can just bring the audience into the conversation, actually into the picture, because you grew up with parents who was on cocaine.
Yes.
For many years.
Yes.
And your mother was in and out of your life.
Yes.
And how many siblings do you have? How many did you take care of? from the
Yes.
age of 5?
So from the age of my mom and my dad were both on cocaine. I never really had a relationship with my father. I had a relationship with my mother, but that was only by default, I guess, because my mom had 4 kids. It was 4 of us. It's 6 of us now, but at the time it was 4 of us. And my older brother never lived with us. He always lived with my grandparents. He always lived with my great grandparents. And so, at the age of 6, my mom abandoned us. But before abandoning us, I was molested by every boyfriend she had.
Sure.
And I was beaten continuously all the time for things that I couldn't control. I had brothers. They were twins. I loved them to death. But you would wake up in the morning and there is like flour all over the house and there's sugar all over the house and there's it's like they walked all night long. And so in the morning when you wake up, you're getting beat for the fact that you didn't stop them from messing up the house. And there's a story that I tell that my mom used to be on drugs, and so the times when she was there,
How old were you when your father passed on?
I was grown. I was an adult when my father passed on. I knew him. We established a relationship later, but I was 34 when my father passed away.
Lord. So he left your mother?
Yes, they never had a relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, he had me and when she had me, then she left. Then he left and went on about his business. But it was me and my older brother from my dad.
Oh, okay.
And so I used to see him like in the street. It would be like I saw him in the street. It'd be like, and so my dad was really thin, so they called him Slim.
Oh.
So I would see him in the street. I'm like, hey Slim. He'd be like, hey Stephanie. But he didn't live in the same city. So when I saw him, he would. It was just like passing another person in the street.
Wow.
Yeah, passing another person in the street. And so, my father wasn't around. So I was raised by my mom for a while, and then my grandmother, my great grandmother, which was my mom's grandmother, which was my saving grace. And so as you walk through the story, a drug addiction is something that I've never taken drugs. But I've experienced the power of cocaine.
Yeah,
I've been robbed of a life because of cocaine.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Right. So I could gather in the book that you love your family, your siblings immensely, because I could hear, I could
Yes.
actually picture it how you were with your twin brothers.
Yes. So my twin brothers have been my saving grace. My twin brothers have anchored me in ways that I didn't know, because it's always been us. It's always been the 3 of us against the world. Wow. Always. And so when there's a program in the States, I think it's like Child Protective Services. So when they came to the house, a neighbor had called them and said that my mom had left. My mom had been gone for months by this time. But no one knew that my mom had left, because my great grandmother lived on our way to school. So she would see me in the morning. I would pass by her house. We get breakfast. We go to school. We eat lunch. We come back to her house. We eat dinner and we go home. And she didn't know that we were going home to an empty house. Wow. So she used to say, where's your mom? I'd be like, oh, she was asleep when we left. I never, because my grandmother, I always feared that my grandmother would beat my mom. I always feared that my great grandmother would beat my mom. So I never wanted to get my mom into trouble. So when the guy came to the house and then he says to us, he says, where's your mom? I said, she's at work. He said, I know she's not. And tomorrow we're going to come back to get you. I call on the way to school, I go to my grandmother's house. I was like, I have to tell the truth. I have to tell someone.
Yeah,
so that's when I told my grandmother exactly.
So they were going to take you to foster care?
They were going to take us to foster care. And then they said that they were going to separate us, that we wouldn't be together, because no one adopts 3 kids. So they were going to separate us. And so I went and told my grandmother, and I said, there's a man that came to the house. And she was like, okay. And I was like, this is what he said. And she says, you're not going anywhere. And so after all those months, that was the first time my grandmother knew that that my mom hadn't been home in months. And she was like, why didn't you say anything? And I was just like, I didn't want to get her. I didn't want to get her in trouble. And even with my brothers, amazingly, my brothers used to say, it's crazy. I used to tell my brothers, oh yeah, she was here while you were sleeping, because I didn't want to ruin the image of my mom to my brothers. So we would wake up and I would say, hey, no, she was here. And crazy enough, like even when I moved with my grandmother, I moved in with my great grandmother when I was 8. And my great grandmother used to always worry about my mom, because my mom was my great grandmother's first grandchild.
Right.
And my grandmother loved my mom. And so there was my grandmother used to say, oh, I wonder how Linda's doing. I haven't heard from her. And she had moved away. She had moved to West Palm Beach at this time. And on the way home from school, I used to call my grandmother Colette and pretend I was my mom.
Oh my word. Just to protect her?
Yep.
Do you feel today that you hadn't to do that?
I had to, because I was already a big responsibility for my grandmother. And what I did not need is my grandmother to now worry about my mom. And so then when I would walk in the house, my grandma would be like, oh, Linda called today. And she sounded so good. And, and I would just say, oh, did she? And she's like, oh, yeah, she asked about you. And she's wondering how you're doing in school.
But it was you, actually.
And it was me.
Oh, my Lord.
But because I can't explain the love that I had for my mom. I didn't want anyone to stop loving my mom. And that was very, very, very important to me. Because I couldn't explain the love.
Why?
Because
irrespective of the feelings you had inside, were you hiding feelings that, why did you abandon us?
Yeah, I felt that way.
Was there a form of rejection there?
It was a lot of that, but I just didn't, for me, I just didn't want them to, because I think now when I think about it, I think that I felt like maybe them not loving my mom would stop them from taking care of us.
Okay.
And I didn't want them to do that, because we had no one else. So yeah.
Oh, I understand that, but
yeah, definitely.
yeah. So can you take us through because your least favorite one, and that's the one that I really want you to expound, was the.
It just talks about the
chapter on empty.
You
running on empty?
Yes, some people are running on empty.
Yeah.
And what happens is you don't realize that you're empty until you realize that you're adding things to your life and it's not making a difference. You're buying the car, you're getting the job, you're moving to the location, you're dating the guy, you're doing all this, you're doing all these things, and you're not happy because you're empty.
Yes, absolutely.
And you're trying to fill unfillable voids with things that aren't sustainable.
Yeah, that's
and
secondary.
And so therapy, I know that there's a lot of people that don't want to get therapy. And it took me a long time to get therapy, because as African Americans, as Blacks, we don't get therapy because it's a sign of weakness. You don't want people to know what's going on in your household. You don't want to embarrass anyone. You don't want to bring shame to your family.
Yeah.
But what happens is you are drowning in sorrow. You're drowning in pain. You're drowning in this anger or this bitterness that begins to manifest itself in bad relationships. I realized that I was holding on to people because I didn't want to abandon them, and they had long abandoned me. And so that's where, being empty, I walked through the relationship with my mom and the fallout of the relationship with my mom, and how it left me empty because I didn't understand how I could be molested by men that you've dated. You could abandon us and you can abuse us, and then you still not love me.
Sure.
So it's like, haven't I not sacrificed enough to deserve the love that you give?
Yeah. I love you deeply and you don't love me.
Yeah, and I felt like unworthy, insignificant. And so in that chapter, I dive into that, and it is a painful place, but on the other side of that is the woman that's here now, that is strong and courageous, and and I still hurt though. I still have moments where I have to pray my way through situations, because anybody who knows that the devil will bring stuff up at inconvenient times. And so I still have to pray my way through situations even now.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose you have to.
Yes.
Because it's only God who can sustain that
Yes.
void that is within, to fill that void. And also, it makes you vulnerable at the sense that, why did this happen to me? Mm-hmm. Did you ever ask that question?
Yes, I did. And I said, and I asked the Lord all the time, like, why me? And people, you hear people say, why not you? Well, don't ask me that. I don't need it to be me.
Yeah.
But now in this moment,
Yeah.
I realize that pain now will be what propels someone else forward. Mm-hmm. And me having the ability to heal and to really in life be okay. Right. Not just faking it, but to really in life be okay. Maybe I am the voice that makes a Black woman who does not want to go to therapy say, no, I can go to therapy. It's not, it's not a weakness. It's actually a strength.
Yes, it is.
It is a major strength. And maybe now I can forgive the person who isn't sorry.
Yes.
Because not everybody is sorry.
Absolutely.
Maybe I can now release the person. So when I look back at it now, I think that's the reason why I went through a lot of things that I did. But in that season, I didn't understand, because I told the Lord all the time, I didn't deserve this.
Yeah.
I was a good kid.
And really, you didn't.
No,
you didn't. It wasn't your fault.
No, not at all. And one of the things that too, you realize that molestation isn't your fault.
Yes.
Listen, if there's anyone out there that is watching this that has been molested or been abandoned or been abused, it was not your fault.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely not your fault. There is nothing that you did. There's nothing that you would have done. There's nothing that you thought of. Nothing was your fault. And the person who did not protect you, they have their reasons, and they will never make sense to you because you were worth protecting.
Absolutely. Well said. There's something that I liked in the book where you said, to not abandon others, I kept abandoning myself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yes.
Right? So you say, no matter who abandons you, never abandon yourself.
Yes.
Please expound.
Okay, so I was in a relationship where I stayed and I stayed and I stayed because I didn't want to abandon this person, because, when you're getting to know someone, you hear of all the difficulties they've had in life and you hear of that. So you want to be the person. I wanted to be the person that no matter what, that I wasn't the person that left them because they had been left before. Oh, okay. But then in that relationship, I sustained so much emotional abuse and so much, not physical abuse, but emotional abuse and an abandonment where when I needed the person, they weren't there. And so I was abandoning myself trying to save them. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, no, I choose me. I'm going to put myself first, and I can't afford to keep abandoning myself, because me not abandoning myself allowed me to set boundaries, and it allowed me to live life in a different way. So I just stopped abandoning myself, and then people realized that I had changed. They didn't know why the change happened. They didn't know what caused the change. They're like, man, she's different. But no, because now I'm not making excuses for your behavior anymore.
Absolutely.
And so now that I'm not making excuses for your behavior anymore, now you feel like I'm not there for you when you need me.
Yeah.
But I can't afford to be, because me holding on to you is killing me.
Right.
I'm dying daily to hold on to you. And it's
Right.
not. And at the end of the day, it's not worth it, because if loving you makes me second guess myself, if loving you makes me think that I'm not worthy, because if you're doing things and I'm saying, what did I do to deserve this? Then it's time for me to move on.
Right. But did you ever feel that, because I know what abandonment is, I wouldn't love to abandon anybody else.
Yeah, I would definitely, and that's where the relationship with my brothers and sisters come in, right? Because listen, they don't want to tell you, but they're spoiled even now. Listen, those kids, man. But it's because I didn't want to abandon them. So I psychologically felt responsible for them, mentally, emotionally, and I didn't want to abandon anyone. And there was a time where there was this guy that I was dating, and he said to me, he said, if I want you, after we broke up and we had a conversation, he says, I realized that if I wanted you to do anything for me, all I had to do was say I needed you and you weren't there, and you would do everything to be there. He said, I wholeheartedly, he says, I'm in a different place now, but I need you to understand that I apologize, but I use your vulnerabilities against you.
What?
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. So, which means when you're in that situation, you don't really see what you are doing. You don't see that I'm actually putting myself.
I'm putting
you become the least.
Yes.
Just to stay afloat, just to be with this person, because this person shows love. So that vulnerability is so huge within you. The void is actually so big that you can't fill it. So you actually need someone else to fill that void. And I think when someone is not healed, and especially if people took advantage of you, and you now eventually get that relationship or that partner, who shows that little bit of love, who shows that I care for you, but not really care, but you see it.
Yes.
Because you're so vulnerable, you see it as care.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So in that situation, I'm sure you went through a lot of things, and the first relationship, the second relationship, when someone just, show a little bit of love, that your vulnerability actually was so big that you actually threw yourself to anybody.
Yes, because you're waiting for. I used to go into relationships. I don't anymore, gratefully, because that's what therapy does. But I used to go into relationships thinking this is the person that's going to fix it. Because in the middle of molestation, I used to say one day there's going to be somebody that loves me, and then they'll protect me. So my mind, in order for me to survive physically, I imagined my life after this moment.
Right.
And so then every person you meet, you think this is the person that's going to do it. Okay, no, I got that wrong. This is the person that's going to do it. And you just find yourself making people responsible for your peace and your happiness and your joy. And once you learn that no one's coming.
Right, because it's unfair. It's unfair to put the responsibility on someone else to love you if you don't even love yourself.
And that's the thing. I didn't even know what love looked like. I had a skewed vision of love. I didn't even know what it was supposed to, because when you don't have a parent who teaches you how to love yourself and to respect yourself and to protect yourself, then you figure, like, listen, this is going to be it was a long road to figuring it out. It was a long road. And so now my friends say, listen, man, you cut people off fast. Yo, listen, I will cut you off. I will cut you off in the middle of I'll leave and I'm not looking back at this point. And I'll pray for you.
Why would you say now you see through different lenses?
Because I see through different lenses, because I see through a healed lens.
Right.
I see through a healed lens now. Where before it was a little blurred. So now I realize that you and I had a situation recently, but I realized you did what you wanted to do.
Right.
And you didn't care how it would impact me. You didn't think it would impact me, but ultimately you didn't care that this would destroy me. So I can love you and we can talk, but I don't know how to maneuver past that point, because now I realize that you knew me as well. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so your healing, once you begin healing, it is tested over and over and over and over and over, because then it's like you realize you begin to set boundaries. That's what it is. You begin to set boundaries.
Absolutely.
Of the things you will not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And boundaries are so vital.
Yes.
Because that will actually give you that advantage to say yes and no.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I used to, and once you learn how to say no, so I used to say yes a lot because you don't want to disappoint anybody. But now I realize, and there's this author that I like, Brene Brown. She's amazing. She talks about vulnerability, the power of vulnerability. Yeah. And one of the things that she said, you want to take the discomfort of a no in that moment than to say yes and resent them because they're not grateful for your yes.
I like it. That's true.
Yes.
Because if you don't have boundaries, everybody is going to take you by the nose and
they will take you on so you and there's probably people that are watching now that are in relationships and you're on an emotional roller coaster. It is not going to stop until you say, this is my stop. I get off here.
all right. Finish and clear.
And they say
That's it.
Kla, and that's what they say here. Kla.
Kla.
Like,
Say that again.
Kla.
Oh, that's lekker.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to read a few of these comments. Good morning, my sis Joan and dear sister Stephanie. Is a whole international vibe this morning, and you know that's from Sonia Foster. And then Ravinia Moviwa, she says, small world, Pastor Joni from my Crystal Ministries family and my very own personal friend Stephanie. Exciting stuff. Love you, ladies. Keep up the great work.
Yes, I love her.
Oh, awesome. And then, Sonia. Sonia say, I feel you, Stephanie, when your grandparents and parents are not there anymore. Write the letters.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
She say that's always the best remedy.
Yes.
So, because she, the person who's actually sending this was also abandoned by her mother.
Yes. Right.
She never actually saw a mother. She was a baby when the mother left her. Said she's going somewhere, her and her sister, and she took care of her sister. So she understands the topic.
Yes, the dynamic.
So then I have Tambu Chitopo. You just made my day, Stephanie. You nailed it. Very exciting stuff. Soothing words. Hell. Soothing words, hey, or whatever she says. My eyes are watering as I'm listening. And I'm so happy that you are enjoying the topic, because this is a topic much needed in our society, whether we live in wherever, USA or South Africa or Brazil, wherever. We all go through circumstances of life, and we all journey through the paths that we really didn't ask for.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But remember, there is healing. And Stephanie is actually having the courage to come on set for you to get the healing, right?
Yes.
Sharing her story for your healing too. And then Kathleen Fonseca says, wow, Stephanie, you are a phenomenal woman. Thank you for being a voice of courage and hope. Eileen say good morning, and she says, yes, boundaries are important. Then Sonia says again, so true, Stephanie, when you were abandoned, you didn't want to abandon anymore.
Yes. No.
So you know the feeling of abandonment.
Yes.
So why would I abandon someone?
Yes.
But there's something that I want to get to, and I know I'm a little bit far from that question, but nevertheless, there's a quote where you say, I was a broken child parading herself around as an adult, an empty child who needed filling. Oh, this got a hold of me now, emotionally. When I read it, I actually could picture what you're actually saying. You say, an empty child who needed filling in impossible ways. What was the impossible ways?
So there's nothing that you can do to go back and heal the child that's broken inside of you. There's nothing, you can't go back and undo that. So that it is impossible to do that. But there's something about the child in you that needs reassurance that they're okay even now, because the child in you comes out more than we think it does.
Right.
So at a large point in my life, I was a child just parading around as an adult, and that's where you go into relationships where you need someone to fix you. That is where you're trying to overachieve. That is where you're overcompensating, because kids are the people that want people to like them. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of adults that are walking around who want people to like them.
True.
There are people that you meet today, and they will do anything for you because
So
they need
true.
you to like them. And a lot of that ties back to the child inside of you that is unhealed, that doesn't feel like they're good enough, that
Yes.
doesn't feel loved. And so now, but it's impossible to feel that child. So there's an exercise that I do, and I said, I want you to write a letter of forgiveness
Okay.
to the child inside of you.
Oh, okay.
And when I did that exercise, it was when I wrote the book, my friend said, no, I need you to do the exercise. And I did. And I apologized for not being protected. I apologized to the child inside of me for not screaming during the molestation. I apologized to the child inside of me for the people around that didn't
Right.
protect her. And
Right.
so, and then I promised the child inside of me that I would protect her now at all costs. That I would do whatever was in my power to keep her safe and to heal her. And so that is why therapy became important and journaling became important, because you want to now heal this child so that when you're walking around complete and you're walking around whole.
Right.
And because if not, you're going to be parading around as an adult for the rest of your life. You're going to be parading
Absolutely.
around as a child for the rest of your
Absolutely.
life.
Yes. So yeah. So there's something that Stephanie wrote in the book. It's some sort of that really took me. It really. I was thinking a lot about the words
Yes.
that you use there. I want you to read it,
Yes.
please.
Okay.
If you
So
don't
this
mind.
poem is called Silent Scream. I was in therapy, and my therapist told me that I deserve compassion, but I had to have compassion for myself.
Right. Right.
And so after that, I was able to write this poem. I am a child in a crowded room screaming at the top of my lungs, trying to be heard, trying to get someone, anyone, to realize that I have emotional scars that are going to remain for years to come. I am the teenage girl who willingly gives my body, not only my body, but my soul to anyone who shows interest, gives me attention. This is what I've been taught by the grown men who took it upon themselves to go in my panties and take my innocence. I am the face that always carries a smile because that is the coping method I've been taught. If I smile, no one will realize how I felt used as a child, how I was molested by men I desired to step into my life in the role of a father. If I smile, no one will see the emotional scars that have often made me contemplate suicide. If I continue to smile, no one will see the real pain that exists along with the feelings of worthlessness. If I smile, maybe people will love the me they see instead of the real me. I am now a grown woman in a crowded room, screaming at the top of my lungs, trying to be heard, trying to get someone, anyone, to realize that I have emotional scars that are going to remain for years to come. I am a victim of molestation, and this is my silent scream.
Sure. What do you say about that, audience, if you listen to that? What do you say about that? There's a scream inside. It's a silent scream. And there's so many of you out there who have the silent scream. And you know, we use different things to camouflage the pain that is deep within. And I know there's a lot of people out there that there's things like a smile, right? A beautiful smile that you put up on your face because nobody will see the pain inside. There's some of you that walks around and you just want to put up walls. These are walls that you put up so nobody can get inside of the pain that you're actually experiencing deep down within. So today we want to say to you, you can take the courage to heal and start talking, you know, as we are empowered, not only by this book. You know, we are saying everybody can be healed. If you are willing, you will be healed. If you speak about it, yes, you will be healed. So take the walls down, girlfriend, and come on, get healing. Go to therapy. And I like what you say. Therapy helped you throughout.
Yes.
Because there is a lot of people who don't love therapy, you know, where they go through circumstances of life.
Right.
And they struggle. how to, they stay in the stuck position. They struggle to move any forward.
Yes.
And with the empty thing, it's when you have a beautiful car. You can have the smartest Mercedes-Benz or BMW or a GTI or whatever with the beautiful mags on and stuff like that. But listen, when you're on your journey, right, and your tank hits empty, there's no way that you're going to go any further. That is the journey of life.
But it doesn't matter how much, because you're just dressing up the trash. You're dressing up the brokenness. You're dressing up the emotional scars. And what you find is and I'm not by any means talking about people that wear weaves and all, but the people that have all the makeup and all the everything, they're covering up this pain.
Yes.
They're hiding it behind Gucci and the big house and the this. And then when you go in the house and you look in the mirror, what do you really see?
Absolutely.
Because even when you take off the makeup and you're by yourself and you take off the clothes and you're done having the great party and you're done entertaining, what do you see?
Yeah.
And so there was a time that when I looked in the mirror, I saw brokenness. I saw, no matter how much I smiled, I saw the little girl balled up in a corner crying. And now, after therapy, and now after really walking a healing journey, because it's a lifelong journey. It doesn't happen today and then you stop tomorrow.
Yes.
It is a lifelong journey. Now when I look in the mirror, I see courage.
Absolutely.
I see strength. And
because it takes courage.
Yes.
It actually takes courage to get the healing.
Yes.
To go through the journey, to address
you.
The pain inside,
Yes.
to address the person who's looking into the mirror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mirrors are amazing.
Yeah.
thing.
One comment said, today I don't even want to look into the mirror because one of the ladies said that. So it just shows you this mirror is a powerful thing.
It is.
Because who's looking back at you?
Yes.
You
Yes.
can camouflage. You can have on the beautiful clothing, and you can camouflage with the makeup and the earrings and the expensive stuff. You know what I'm saying? But it does not bring the healing that is within, that the girl needs or the boy needs.
Right. And COVID has actually magnified that. COVID is because now people are, because you can't leave home and pretend like you have a great life, because now you're getting beat up every day. You were always getting beat up, but you had or you had a bad situation, so now COVID has now made that even worse, because now that little piece that you had when you left the house and you could pretend that things were great, you no longer have that, because now you and whomever or you and however are now in the house. So now you can't feel that that pride when people say, oh, that's a nice bag, or oh, that's a nice car, or oh, you don't feel that, because now you're just going to Pick and Pay and going home.
Very true.
So you're just
you have to live with the person, the real person.
So now you're forced to live with the person, but then you can come out of it different.
Yes.
Because when you have to come face to face with who you are, what will you do? When you have to come face to face with your pain, when you have to come face to face with your unhealed areas, what will you do? Will you tuck them or will you heal them?
Yeah. Question.
Yes.
And it's for everybody out there to answer that
will
question.
Will you tuck them? What do you do? What do you continue to hide behind everything, or do you say that I am worth the authenticity that it takes to heal?
Absolutely.
I want to show up and be my whole self, and I am worthy of love just the way that I am.
Yes.
Like in the poem you read, you're flawed, but you're worthy of love just the way that you are. And there are people out there who, and we were talking about that before, you have to find people that you can be vulnerable with. Not everybody, because there are some people. There are some people that want to know your business, so they can talk about your business. Not those people.
Also, boundary steps in, right?
Yes, but when you begin to heal, you ask God to send you people who will help you along this journey.
Yeah.
People that will be your lighthouse when the road gets dark.
Yes.
That can guide you back to who you are and
Absolutely.
and so that is what it takes. It takes finding a network of people that you can trust with anything about you that will lead you back to who you told the Lord you wanted to be.
Yes.
So if you want to be healed and you're doing things that you did when you weren't healed, then you have someone that says, hey, listen, you just turned left when we were supposed to be going right.
Right, yeah.
and you don't take
bringing you
offense
back-
to it, right?
yeah,
And they bring
bringing
you back.
on the path.
They
yeah.
bring you back to the path that you're supposed to be on.
And you have to be willing.
And you have to be, listen,
Yeah.
I call her my Penny. We've been friends since we were 4 years old.
Wow.
We have 40 years of friendship,
Wow.
and she cuts no corners.
Wow.
No corners at all. But I'm grateful for that because she's my lighthouse in the middle of the storm.
Awesome. Wonderful.
Yes. And not everybody has a 40-year friendship.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can meet people along the way that you can be authentic
Yes.
with and you can be vulnerable with, and then they'll help you. So it's about finding a network of people and then wanting to do it. Because if you do not want to heal, then you're not going to.
Absolutely.
If you tell yourself,
If you want to stay in your pity party, you're going to stay there.
if you cannot say, if you say that you're not going to ever be healed, then you're not going to, because the power of life and death is in the tongue.
Yes.
So whatever you say,
Yeah.
that's what you
Yes,
manifest.
absolutely. Right, I want to get to this one. How did you manage to forgive? And I know I asked you offset because I couldn't get that. How did you manage to forgive the people who hurt you? Who actually, because if I hurt myself and I bang myself somewhere and it makes a blue mark, because lately, with age, if you just pass something and then afterwards you see you blue and the mark is there, now you think, but where did I get this mark?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But there are scars. When there's a scar, you always look at the scar. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't disappear.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So how did you manage to forgive the people who actually hurt you?
So it started with me having a conversation with God.
Okay.
And then my therapist, but God first. And so one of the things that the Lord, and I don't know who has the quote, we judge other people by their actions and judge ourselves by our intentions. So the people who molested me, that was their intention. That doesn't change. And me understanding that had nothing to do with me. That I did not deserve that
Yes.
the Lord would then deal with them,
Yes.
allowed me to forgive them.
Yes.
Because I didn't, because one of the people that molested me was like near and dear to my heart and my soul.
Wow.
And the forgiveness came when I wrote him a letter.
Wow.
And he said to me, I've been trying to figure out for years how to
Yes,
apologize.
yes. Yeah, you have that in the book.
And so that helped me with
Yeah.
that. And then in other areas of my life, and people say this all the time, how do you forgive? If you've ever shown up for me, that's big for me because I don't ask for help. So now I'm able to remember the good that you brought into my life, and I can love you based on the good, but I can forgive you and I release you. Because I can't forgive. There's a lot of people that I can't forgive and hold on to you because you remind me of the pain, but I can
Right.
forgive you and then I release you.
Yeah.
And because you're worth it, because the forgiveness is not for you,
Right.
it's for me.
Right.
And so when I got to a place where it was difficult for me to forgive, I said, Lord, why can't I forgive them?
Right.
And the Lord was like, because you want to get even.
Okay.
You want to get even. I was like,
Right.
okay, well,
you want to move forward.
yeah, listen.
Yeah.
I listen, Lord, I want them to hurt and I want to see it.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
Lord was like, nah, that's
And
not.
that's human, right?
The Lord was like,
We
nah,
always
that's.
think that way.
The Lord was like, that's not how that works. That's not really how that works. So when I got past the point that I felt like, because, listen, when you get to the point where you want to defend yourself and you realize the Lord's like, you don't have to defend yourself. I will. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try this forgiveness thing and see how it works. But if it was up to me, I'd be in jail. And the Lord was like, no, we're not going to do that. So I honestly I began journaling a lot, and I began burning the things. I never reread the journal. I never reread my journal. I tear it out and I burn it. And so I was able to then love people. And then
Why did you do that? Was that to say to yourself that, listen, I've dealt with this. I'm not going back to this.
So once I ripped the paper out of once I journaled, my forgiveness steps was there's a process that I go through called the total truth process. It's a thing that I found from Lisa Nichols in one of her books, and it's the total truth process, and it talks about how you hurt me when I expected it destroyed me when, but then it ends with the good things that you brought to my life.
Oh, okay.
And so then that allowed me to go through that process.
Okay.
And so when I go through that process, I'm like, okay, was it intentional or unintentional? Were you trying to do me harm, or was it, or was it by mistake?
Oh, okay.
And then once you separate the two, you realize that you're human, but you don't emotionally, I have to release you because you don't serve me well emotionally.
Oh, okay.
So, and so some people hold on to people, like they don't forgive people, or they hold on to people because, oh, this person gives me money, and this person, I don't care how much money you give me. I don't care what you buy me. If emotionally you're not good for me,
that's it.
'cause that's where my
forgive you
need-
and walk on.
because that's where my needs
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Awesome. Wonderful. So yeah, I'm almost at the end of our discussion. But yeah, how do you define courage?
Whew. I define courage as having the ability to take a step even when you don't know the outcome.
Yeah, wonderfully said.
You don't know how your healing is going to come. And listen,
Wonderful.
healing is not sexy.
No, it's not.
Healing is not beautiful. It's not cute. It is, when you get to the root cause of things, healing is not sexy. And so having the courage to take one step and say, okay, this is what I have to address. And I had the courage to do one thing at a time. So in therapy, I addressed the molestation. Then I addressed the abandonment. Then I addressed the next thing. Because if you try to eat the whole elephant, you're never going to heal, because it's all going to run together.
Right,
because
right.
women, we don't
Right,
compartmentalize stuff.
right,
It's
right.
all the same.
Right. So you take the elephant bit by bit.
Bit by bit.
Yeah.
And so you have to take your healing bit by bit.
I like the way you said it. That's courage for me. You say molestation taught you a harsh lesson. What can you tell us? What does that mean?
It taught me the harsh lesson that there are people who don't mean you good.
Oh, okay.
And no matter how they dress it up, they don't mean you any good. And so for me, as a child who was living with my mom at the time, who did not have a dad, and we had this guy, he was so amazing. He would help us with our homework. He was helping. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm safe.
Okay.
And then it was like, oh, he got the message too that I'm easy to molest. And so it just taught me a hard lesson on trust. It taught me
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah,
How do you trust again? How do you trust? Because that's very difficult, to trust people. Even you were a little girl, when you were molested, and not by one guy, but by a few. Mm-hmm. So how do you trust a man again?
So for a long time, I did not. I sat at the foot of my grandfather for a long time, because that was a relationship that never wavered. I felt safe in that relationship.
Okay.
And so when I started dating, I didn't trust. It was very difficult for me to trust people. I trust that you were only there for one thing, and until you have the courage to see different. But then I realized that it was now on me to establish the way that this relationship was going to go. So before, you're promiscuous, you start out with sex, and then now I'm like, nah, we're good. I'm celibate. So let's figure out, let's figure out how we're going to make it. And then let's get to know, let me see why I should trust you.
Right.
And then but then it was like a baby step, but that's on the other side of healing.
Right.
Because if not, you repeat the same dangerous, the same
cycle.
The same cycle,
Yeah.
and you get the
Yeah.
same result. If you do the same thing, you'll get the same thing.
Yeah.
Me and Father Ali was just talking about, that's the that's the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Yes. how can you expect different results?
Yes. And
You know?
so
Because you know the result already.
yeah, and so I realized that if I do this in this way, then I first had to learn. I actually had to learn how to trust myself.
Yeah.
So I realized I didn't trust me
Yeah.
because I didn't know how to make good decisions.
Okay. Yeah, because when you're little, how can you?
Yeah, and so I just surrounded myself by my grandparents.
Right.
I was telling you about my great grandmother, the best woman I've ever met
Yes.
and had the pleasure to love in my life. I just surrounded myself by her. And so you don't have to trust people because I can blindly trust
Right.
this person.
Right. Okay, so if we go back, is it true that being abandoned, molested, and all that type of things bring you to a place where you put responsibilities on others
Yes.
to love you?
Yes. Absolutely. You meet people hoping that this person is going to right all the wrongs that has happened in your life. You become very dependent on people emotionally to to give you the things that you need at the core when that's not their responsibility. You depend on people to make you happy. And there's a flip side to that, because one, you could either isolate yourself or you're overly dependent. And so I was married, and Mark used to say, "You're so needy," and I was like, "What?" But I didn't understand that I was needy, and I didn't understand until I turned 25 and started taking psychology classes, and everything came flooding back, and then I realized, oh, this is why I'm needy.
Okay.
I was very needy. I love him to this day, but I was very. I mean, we're great friends, but I was very needy. I don't need, like, when you come home, I need all your attention, because I didn't get that. And what people don't realize is that when you start taking care of kids when you're 6 years old, you don't. You didn't have a life.
There's a part of your childhood that's missing, because you had to take responsibility.
People laugh at me right now. I am 44 years old, and I can tell you every Disney cartoon. But the reason why I can is because I didn't have a childhood. So when I should have been sitting around watching cartoons and living this great life, I wasn't.
Yeah.
So now at 44, listen, judge me if you want. I know every cartoon and all the words. because that's the part of my childhood that I can now capture and hold on to, and it brings me joy. So I do the things that bring me joy, because I didn't have them. And my brothers laugh at me all the time. They're like, your niece wants to see this. I was like, oh, that was so good. I saw that already. So is it
true that when you miss some parts in your childhood, that you always want to go back to it?
Yes. If you see the people now that so I have the big house and that thing, but that wasn't necessarily for me, like, trying to get back my childhood. That was because that's something that I manifested in the 6th grade. I drew the house that I live in now. I drew it when I was in the 6th grade. So it was a matter of the Lord showing me that you can manifest things. What you say will come to pass. But I do remember buying more clothes than I needed and buying the jewelry that I didn't need. And it wasn't until I started traveling that I started to give stuff away. Because I realized it didn't do what I thought it was going to do.
Exactly.
So you see the person that has the 4 BMWs and the this and the that. Not everybody, but if you dig a little bit, most of it is overcompensating for things that they didn't have as a child.
Right. Well, we came to the end of our discussion. I had a very important question. But yeah, buy the book, guys. Buy the book. Download the book on Kindle. My last was Gratefulness is a Lifestyle.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
Gratefulness is a lifestyle.
It is.
If you are grateful when you wake up in the morning, and you're grateful just for the mere fact that you are breathing, So I actually like that phrase that you used there. Gratefulness is a lifestyle.
Gratefulness makes everything you have enough.
Yeah, I like it. Gratefulness makes everything you have enough, so you won't seek for things that you don't have, right? So I want to just end off this program, and I want to say thank you everybody for tuning in this morning, knowing that you are worth it and that you have the courage to heal. So your last comments to the audience.
Healing is not sexy. Healing is not fun. But healing is necessary for you to meet the person that you are destined to become.
To meet the person
you are destined to become.
You are destined to become. That's a mouthful. I can talk to you the whole day. Right, guys, we came to the end of the show, and I know you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We know that next week we will be on. Maybe if you're still here next week, I can still carry on with this book, because I wanted this grateful thing to actually, the way you wrote it.
Yes.
You know, how you are grateful for life, for
Yes.
breath, for whatever. Right, thank you so much, Victoria Tuale. Yes, Steph, God sends people in your life for a purpose. Eileen Paleman, God sent people that you can trust. And Dominic Manuel say, you have taught me so much. Thank you, Dominic. I am so proud of you. Mommy Steph. Yes, thank you so much for everybody who tuned in. I love you. God loves you best. Go in the peace of the Lord and get healed, right? Find the courage to find your healing. Mwah.
In the shadow, as I look upon my life, in the shadow, there's a passion inside.